Hello and welcome back to the Canaries Chat channel. This is a Norwich City manager update. We only just did one yesterday, but things seem to be really heating up now. There's a few more rumours flying about and a few more confirmations of managers that have had interviews. So we're going to go through all those. There was a name that kind of came out just after we did the video yesterday. That was a complete curveball. I don't think many people had overly heard of them, and we'll go into detail there. So another name has entered, but a few names have also dropped off a little bit now. So in regards to interviews, so John Percy from Telegraph has confirmed 2 managers have had interviews and 1 manager has had contact with the club. The manager that has had contact with the club is Will Still, and that's been reported by a couple of journalists. And then, yeah, the news that John Percy broke was that Gary O'Neill has had an interview. Obviously, he had an interview in the summer, so we kind of, I imagine the Norwich higher-ups know exactly what to expect. A little bit of kind of, again, a tricky one to gauge with fans because his teams haven't been defensively great, haven't been attackingly great either. So Gary O'Neill seems to be a few fans' favourites to come in, and then others absolutely don't want him at all. And I think this is potentially the issue with going with a manager that has maybe formerly played for the club as well. So I think Russell Martin is in a very similar boat. Less people are divided by Gary O'Neill, I'd say, whereas Russell Martin, I think, is a lot more polarising in his personality and in his approach to managing. But yeah, it does really seem that you're not going to get a united front from Norwich City fans, I think, if Gary O'Neill or Russell Martin come in. Just quickly, about 65% of the people watching this video are not subscribed. So a very audacious goal of trying to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're going to be doing manager updates. We're going to be doing transfer updates when it comes to January. We do previews and the vlogs. So if you're enjoying the Norwich City content, you want to support us on that journey, click the subscribe button down below. But yeah, Gary O'Neill supposedly has had an interview, and we'll obviously see how that goes. One of the new names that has been kind of now talked about and that is broken this morning is Jon Dahl Tomasson, so former Blackburn manager. He's most recently been managing Sweden, didn't do very well on the international stage. Obviously, Graham Potter has now taken over Sweden as well. As I said, previously managed Blackburn, managed to get Blackburn, I think it was in the 22-23 season, up to 7th, and then had a very kind of public falling out with the owners of Blackburn, who I think in general people would say are quite notoriously hard to work with. So I don't think that comes as too much as a shock. But they did only finish 7th on goal difference with that Blackburn team. So he's clearly got a know-how of the Championship. He didn't leave them in the best position, but as I said, that was due to ongoing spats higher up. And I think it would maybe be a little bit unfair to judge him on that season where a lot's going on in the background. And I think a gauge of this is how fans react to managers. So I think we've seen it with like the George Long situation. Like Millwall fans couldn't believe that we were taking him, and you go to the Blackburn kind of socials and go on other kind of big football X accounts that when they broke the news that he was leaving Blackburn, a lot of fans were saying he deserved better than what had happened, and that they don't blame him for leaving. It wasn't a sacking. He left by mutual consent, so it wasn't a sacking. But yeah, a lot of fans seem very positive and very kind of happy nearly that he left. And I think that's really telling, because when you have a manager who leaves on those terms and leaves on his own terms, you know it's maybe not the quality of the manager that has caused that. Obviously, as I said, he didn't do very well in Sweden, but he has got kind of prior good club success at others. I believe he was at Malmo as well, and did well there. Plays a 4-2-3-1 formation as well, which I think a lot of Norwich City fans would like to see us go back to, get that support around Sarge, drop this kind of 3/5 at the back and really try and play to the strengths as much as we can. His odds were massively slashed. He's now favourite to get the job. You don't want to look too much into odds. They can kind of help us gauge who's interested and who's maybe had conversations, but obviously by people putting money on certain people to go, that does affect it as well. So he is now currently leading the race, with Gary O'Neill just behind. And yeah, I think as appointment go, he'd be a solid appointment. I look at the other names. Blackburn fans said that he plays very attractive football, so that's a plus. They said that he'll probably bomb out anyone that doesn't run enough. So he obviously likes workhorses and people that will put absolutely their all into it. Though he won't take kind of any people coasting within the team, which I think is really good as well. But yeah, I think you look at the likes of maybe Martin and stuff like that. I think I'd have him over him, probably over Will Still, and probably over Gary O'Neill, just due to kind of prior experience and the football that we could expect. So that is one of the new names that has entered the fold. As I said, Will Still being talked to, but there's supposedly not an interview yet from what I could see. But Norwich have been scoping out his availability. Carrick and Martin have now fallen off the odds, so they're, I think, around kind of the 12 to 16 to 1 roughly now. So they've taken a step back. I think there's still obviously a lot of clubs looking for new managers. It probably won't be the last time it changes. And yeah, I think, to be honest, I'd be surprised if Carrick doesn't get one of the jobs personally. There is talks that he's very settled up north and that he prefers to stay up north and out of Southampton, Norwich, Swansea and Middlesbrough. The only one obviously clearly up north is Middlesbrough, and he's not going to go back there. So he may have to wait or take a punt on one of those ones to come down further south. And Russell Martin has obviously kind of got that trifecta of Norwich used to play for, Southampton previously managed, Swansea previously managed. Seen a lot of Swansea fans say that they'd like to have him back, but as reported yesterday, Hellberg is also the favourite for the Swansea job. So Martin isn't necessarily a set on to go to Southampton, and I'd be surprised if we don't hear his name loop back around at some point. I wouldn't be too surprised either if we give him an interview just to kind of get an understanding of his interest for that job. So the second newest name is with Marek Papson. So he's a manager of Rakov, where Cernak came from and where Vlad was on loan at previously. So he was at Sporting Lisbon but on loan at Rakov. And he does play a 3 at the back, and he is very kind of physically demanding coach. It's a lot of high pressing, needs a lot of runners as well, especially in the midfield. And I don't think that would naturally suit a lot of our players. I think we don't have out and out like athletes in the squad to do what we need to do. Fitzgoran and Sargent, two very good strikers at pressing, that's absolutely fine. But the step back, do I think Topic, Matson, McLean could play life in a real high press environment? I don't overly think that, and from what I could see as well, Papson plays a kind of more condensed trigger based press, whereas it's not so kind of you press from the get-go. It's kind of a little bit more, I feel like Germany played it a good few years ago, where it's like get to the halfway line and then that's when the press is triggered, and I just don't think our players could deal with that. I'll be honest, I have very, very little understanding of Papson and the potential kind of things he would need apart from the information I've got from the research that I've done last night. He has taken him up through the divisions, and then he did win on the title, and then he left and then he's come back. So yeah, it's a real interesting one. It feels like Ben Napper has this market in his head. Obviously, we've got like Cernak, Vlad, obviously, I know was at Sporting, but was there, Jurasek, like players that have played in kind of towards Eastern Europe or and stuff like that. And that seems to be the market Napa is looking at sometimes quite a lot. Obviously, as I said, the likes of Tomasson, O'Neill, Martin, like they obviously don't fit that, but he clearly has a foot in that side when it comes to scouting. And I'm sure when he's been scouting the like of Cerna and stuff like that, the manager is also part of that. How does the manager play these players in those systems? So that could be where he's had that kind of prior knowledge to what Papson could bring to Norwich City. So that's the news today. 2 new names in Papson and Tomasson, and the fresh confirmation of O'Neill and Tomasson getting interviews. So 2 very big bits of news, the interviews and the fresh kind of rumours. As always, if you're enjoying the videos, you're enjoying the manager updates, click the like button and subscribe. We're going to be doing more manager updates as and when news breaks. So could be like yesterday, we do one and another, or it may be a couple of days if there's no fresh links. But it is still very much kind of on the cards that this will be wrapped up by the end of the international break. So there'll be definitely more videos to come. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video.